Hi everybody, welcome to our Wednesday TNT as we do a quick whip around of the stories from Thailand and also regionally today. We thought we might have a quick look at some of the main stories around the region, and I've got my iPad here. I've marked up some stories. Let's start with this one, and it says Thailand expected to delay launch of tourism tax. Now, we heard a few rumours about this last week, which we reported. This is an additional story from Scanned Asia. And they say Thailand is expected to delay the launching of a 300 baht tourism tax. Once again, the launching's already been postponed from June to September last year. Still, new reports suggest the launching might have to be paused till next year. Besides the 300 baht charge for visitors coming by air, the plan also includes a charge of 150 baht for travellers coming by sea or land. So the idea of this tax, or levy if you like, was for people arriving in Thailand. It was only going to be applicable to foreigners, and there was some talk that permanent expats would be exempt from this tax. The pro-military alliance, which anticipated the fees, seems to have lost the May 24 election. The new administration, consisting of 8 earlier opposition parties, are not likely to take charge before August. Well, all that's currently in play. The new cabinet's likely to highlight concerns with airlines' discontent about being in command of the fee collection. So the idea was that the airlines were expected to collect this 300 baht arrival tax. But the airline said no. The airlines have said that inserting the charge in their fare is too complex. They would have to distinguish between overseas tourists and Thai residents and overseas people in Thailand. They would have to distinguish between overseas tourists and Thai residents and overseas people in Thailand. And a fee at automatic stalls, that's those kiosks, we see those automatic kiosks at airports, is another proposal. However, critics said with the rebirth of tourism, airports in Thailand are already seeing long queues at immigration and baggage checks. The more I read about this, the more it seems to be unworkable. It seems that the new government, any new government, is going to have a lot on its plate, besides trying to figure out how they're going to get another 300 baht out of our pockets. And the airlines certainly aren't cooperating. Speaking of tourism, though, we've got this story, and this is covered in thepatianews.com. Over 2 million visitors have visited Surat Thani in Thailand this year so far. So Surat Thani referring to that province in the southern part of Thailand. Also, I suppose, key to this story is it refers to the islands of Koh Samui, Koh Phangan and Koh Tao. The Surat Thani governor announced that a total of just over 2 million visitors have arrived in the province since January, with foreign visitors accounting for the majority of this influx. The substantial rise in international arrivals has had a significant impact on the provincial economy. And the surge in visitors is also evident in the hotel occupancy rates, which have seen a substantial boost. Since the beginning of the year, the occupancy rate in Surat Thani has reached around 77%, representing an impressive 39% increase compared to the same time last year. Now, the only way they could actually know this is by contacting hotels and asking them, hey, what's your occupancy rate? Now, obviously, they can't ask all the hotels, and knowing hotels in Thailand, they're just going to boast about their occupancy rates anyway. So I'm not sure if we can take much from that particular paragraph, except that there has been an increase in occupancy rates over this year. And then just noting at the bottom, the proceeding is a press release from the Thai government. I think we should have known that at the start of the article, but obviously they want to boast about the increase of tourists into the southern part of Thailand, including Surat Thani. Let's check the numbers in Phuket. So this is a list of the inbound tourists into Phuket during April. We can see that Russia is still the number one, followed by China, India, Australia, United Kingdom, Malaysia and Germany. And just another thing to note there is if you go through the months from November last year up to April this year, the number of Russians were by far the highest number of tourists arriving in the southern provincial island. But it peaked during January and is now well sort of falling off the cliff. So certainly some big changes to the demographics of the tourists coming into Thailand over the past 6 months, but this big surge of Russians seems to be in the wane at the moment. Let's check the weather. In reporting from thepatianews.com once again, Thai Meteorological Department warns of heavy rain across Thailand. They could have headlined this story, "It sometimes rains during the monsoon." And the Thai Meteorological Department states that a strong southwest monsoon is covering the Andaman Sea and the Gulf of Thailand. The low pressure area is covering the lower central part of the eastern part of Thailand. Possible heavy rain is taking place in the lower northern part, central, eastern and southern parts of Thailand. Some areas could bring flash floods. So yes, it looks like we've got some rain on the way. Certainly in Phuket it's been very, very wet over the past week. The monsoon has arrived with a bit of a thud. Although we're still getting plenty of sunshine, there's certainly been plenty of rain as well. The waters in the Andaman Sea are up to 3 metres. Waves in the Gulf of Thailand are up to 2 metres high. Well, that's the prediction from the Thai Meteorological Department. Let's check some of the local weather today. And it says up in Bangkok it's going to be a maximum of 34 and there could be some rain around about mid-afternoon. And talking about the winds, well, we've got the winds coming from the southwest, maximum of 16 kilometres an hour. In Phuket, the precipitation looks like it could peak around about from 2 o'clock today. As far as the winds are concerned, a maximum of 27 kilometres an hour. Now, whilst that's reasonably strong winds, it's certainly not cyclonic or anything, and the boats will be heading out, I'm sure, offshore today, although I'm sure they'll be keeping an eye on storms and the weather. And then Koh Samui on the Gulf of Thailand, today they'll be having some rain, peaking around about 4 or 5 o'clock this afternoon, and their maximum wind speed is 26 kilometres an hour. So yes, it looks like there's going to be a bit of rain, but really that's nothing too unusual at this time of the year. Let's have a look at the weather map. Well, this is a digital version of the synoptic chart, and we can see that tropical cyclone Mawar, and it's there off the coast of Taiwan, north of the Philippines, dragging in plenty of air. But you can see, looking at Thailand, that we've still got this westerly stream, a bit of southwest in it, streaming across the region, and there's nothing really very unusual about that, and it's bringing the monsoon and those moist southwest winds out of the Indian Ocean. So despite the dramatic headlines, there's really nothing too unusual about the weather this time of the year. You might have to take an umbrella, and that's always probably a good suggestion during this time of the year. A big thanks to 5 Star Marine. There's a link in the description for a special deal for TNT viewers. They've been a sponsor with us since day one. Wednesday's TNT, the couch edition, and we're just checking some of the main stories from around Thailand. Let's see what happened at that big meeting yesterday. And Thai PBS World need a bit of help with their editing. Coalition members meet Tuesday to discuss policy details and unresolved differences. The story says that the leading members of the 8 parties in the PETA-led coalition met yesterday to discuss details of the policies to be implemented once the government is in place. So I suppose the wishful thinking is continuing and they're just getting on with the job, despite knowing that sometime over the next month or so there'll be a vote which will make all the difference whether they can carry out their plans or not. Referring to the tussle over the House speakership, Peter, the leader of Move Forward and tipped to be the next Premier, said the issue was raised and it was agreed that his party and Per Thai will consider the issue jointly. In other words, nothing was decided before the meeting, they didn't want to discuss it during the meeting, and they'll hash that out sometime over the next week. And notably, the Per Thai leader Cholnan said it will not be an obstacle to forming the government, and 7 working groups have been set up to deal with electricity and diesel prices, drought and El Niño problems, violence in 3 southernmost provinces, constitutional review, the environment, and PM 2.5 dust problems, the economy, livelihoods, and SME-related problems and illegal drugs. That just about covers everything. I just note yesterday the Prime Minister was warning this new coalition not to get ahead of themselves, and really they should be waiting until the Senate makes their decisions about the government before starting to talk about all these issues. But again, I think a part of the whole play is that this group is trying to show that they're ready to govern, and they want to make sure they hit the ground running. And again, needing a bit of help with their editing, Peter said he hopes that the Election Commission will not take a long time to ratify the election results so that he can officially form the government as soon as possible and start solving problems for the people. And a bit of editing here, you can fill in the gaps. Concerning the reclassification, I think that should be Maharaja. As a controlled substance, Peter said that in many countries, although the Maharaja is listed as a controlled substance, it can be used for medical purposes. I know it's absurd. I'm just trying to bring you the news without getting myself in trouble with YouTube again. Zoning could be applied, and those who publicly carry it could face punishment. For those who have Maharaja-related businesses, the working group will discuss the possibility of an amnesty. So that situation's still clearly in flux, and proponents of that particular herb are just going to have to wait a few more months until the new government sits down, whoever they might be, and decides what they're going to do. Thai PBS World again, and they're saying an increase in mosquitoes and mosquito-borne diseases predicted due to global warming. Global warming has increased the number of mosquitoes because of a rise in mean temperatures of just 1 degree Celsius, speeds up their life cycle from egg to an adult to just slightly over a week instead of 12 to 15 days. Does it? I can imagine that you could have more mosquitoes because of the generally warmer weather, but as far as speeding up their development cycle, not quite so sure about that. This means a commensurate increase in mosquito-related diseases such as dengue fever, malaria, meningitis and Zika. So I need a little bit more explanation on this. Let's hope the next paragraph helps. An entomologist at the Department of Disease Control said that a mosquito has 4 life stages, from egg to larva, from pupa to adult. Global warming has shortened this life cycle to a little more than a week, so we see more mosquitoes in the environment and an increased chance of mosquito bites and infections. So I'm not really sold on that explanation. I think you'd have to see a change in the evolution of mosquitoes, which would affect their development no matter what the temperature is. Anyway, he disclosed that about 17,000 people suffered from dengue fever over the first 5 months of this year, and 17 people have died, but he predicted more cases next month, attributing this to more mosquitoes and the tendency for mosquitoes to be hungry more often and thirst for blood due to the effects global warming has on the metabolic system of adult mosquitoes. So I'll let you digest all that. If you've got a friendly entomologist, you might like to ask them for a bit more of an explanation about that. But certainly during the wet season and when we've still got all this warm weather, there are certainly going to be more mosquitoes around. And I think I should publish underneath this article 10 ways to avoid dengue fever, because it's certainly one of those things you can avoid and you should avoid. Let's go to motorbikes. And NationThailand.com is reporting that motorcycle sales surging despite dangers on Thai roads. Despite the unusually high number of road accidents involving motorbikes in Thailand, their sale has risen exponentially in the first 3 months of this year. Apparently this was 4.5 times higher than the 122,812 cars sold during that period. And according to the Department of Land Transport, 8,751 of 17,000 odd road deaths last year involved motorcycles. Well, I'd be questioning that, because if you look at the rate of road deaths over recent decades, unless something has radically changed in recent months, usually it's about 75% of the road deaths can be attributed to motorcycles. I thought it might just be interesting just to have a quick whip around at the headlines in some of the daily papers, the daily online publications. And we start here with the South China Morning Post. Let's check some of the headlines. 1 million tonnes of durian imports a year in reach as China demand surges. Thailand seizes passport of a Chinese journalist for misusing police connections. Demand is high. Singaporeans eye cheaper trips to Malaysia as the ringgit plunges. And North Korea attempts satellite launch, prompts alerts in South Korea and Japan. And just going across the page to some of the other headlines, what we can learn from a Chinese comedian's PLA joke that backfired. Well, that was a cartoonist doing drawings of President Xi. We've already done that headline. And make good use of advantages, China urged to aid economy and development. And published in 1957, this is still Hong Kong's most comprehensive history book. So there's some of the headlines in the South China Morning Post today. Let's go to the Straits Times, which is the main publication in Singapore and partly owned by the Singaporean government and the Lee family. Malaysian polls in November saw surge of hate speech on social media. Over this side, we've got North Korea launches satellite, forcing alerts to be sent, then retracted in South Korea and Japan. A Chinese jet carried out aggressive manoeuvre near a US military plane. Having seen the video, I'm not sure if it was particularly aggressive. Maybe slightly irresponsible would be a better word. Why Ukraine's allies are breaking self-imposed taboos in taking on Russia. And artificial intelligence poses extinction risk, experts warn in terse statement. I had a couple of friends sending me other versions of that story, saying that we're all going to die because AI is taking over. Obviously, that's a big story, not the sort of thing that we cover here on TNT. Anyway, that's some of the headlines in the Straits Times, their online publication. So that brings us to an end of today's program, a quick whip around Thailand and the region. Hopefully you're a bit more up to date. If you get an opportunity, we'd appreciate it if you could subscribe to the channel, click the like button or even the unlike button. We look forward to your comments and we'll see you again tomorrow.